We're on a bit of a roll with minivans here on Test Drive, and even though people aren't really buying them as much as they were back in the 90s, they're still an important segment for a lot of buyers here in North America. Our spotlight today is on this 2018 Kia Sedona SXL. This is a fully loaded sub $50,000 minivan with quite a lot of features that we don't often see even on some of the top-end mid-size crossover SUVs. So we're going to be showing you everything about this minivan and going in depth with everything you need to know if you're in the market for a minivan. Now, as far as minivan technology goes, this is about as good as it gets. You do have projector-based xenon headlights up front with regular halogen projector fog lights at the bottom. You do have all the safety features you would expect for a vehicle at this price point, such as active cruise control, blind spot monitoring, lane departure assist, and other safety tech like that. You do have your keyless entry system along the front doors, and the power folding mirrors will automatically deploy when you're coming up to them. Now, the doors are power slide opening. You would expect that from a minivan. And you do have pretty good space in here. Now, the seats don't fold flat like you can get on Chrysler products, but you do have pretty decent control for the seats back here. And the trunk seats can fold flat completely, so if you do need to store more in the back of the vehicle, you can. And you've got your power lift gate at the back, and full parking sensors and a 360-degree camera system to help move this big vehicle around. We've seen that on a couple other Kia products so far. So really, they do take the best of what they have to offer in their compact and mid-size crossover SUV market and adapt it to the minivan. Now, the interior here of the Sedona is actually quite similar to what we saw on the Kia Optima. We actually really like that car. It's the best mid-size sedan we have currently in our review list, and everything is laid out quite well. You do have your navigation screen up top. You do have a CD drive, which I know a lot of people have complained about with a lot of other vehicles, that manufacturers just aren't putting that on anymore when it comes to vehicles. So you do have a CD drive up top. You do have your navigation system, and we do like it quite a bit. It works very well. You do have your Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, as well as that, as I mentioned, 360-degree camera system. So there's quite a lot of tech going on with the screen here. Everything else is pretty well laid out. You've got your controls up front, dual zone climate control, along with the third zone in the back there. USB up at the front, and your cup holders here. You do have heated and ventilated front seats, heated steering wheel, and a couple other drive modes, so you can go into comfort, eco, or regular mode. There is no sport mode, but it is a minivan, so you would expect that. Aside from that, you have all the other creature comforts you would expect. Home link up the top, and it doesn't have a full panoramic sunroof. You do have a sunroof up here, and then a second one further into the back, kind of where your head would be in the second row, or the front of your feet for the third row. So you do have two sunroofs back here, and the seats up here are quite comfortable. I find that there's good room. You're seated at a good position, a little bit higher up, so a little bit more like a crossover. And one of the things that's really unique about this is you do have controls here for the passenger seat on the side, which is really good if you do have kids in the back and nobody's sitting up here. You can actually push this seat more or less completely out of the way. So if your kids need a little bit more room, or, you know, for whatever reason you're loading stuff up, you need to be able to move it on the fly. You can do it without having to bend over and get to the seat controls along the side there. So it's a little thought process, very small feature that I think could come in handy for people who are looking at using this and having a little bit more control of that seat. Now, seating back here is going to be probably more for kids. I mean, you can certainly get adults around here. Maybe you're using this as a real estate car. You want to be able to drive clients around. They'll be sitting back here. You do have cup holders up the front here, a charger, and then a little tray at the bottom can slide out, plus a regular house outlet. There are no screens or anything back here. You do have sunshades that slide up. They're not power, but it is pretty standard in this segment now. And then also the rear windows have sunshades as well, which makes sense because if you do have a larger family and you are buying a minivan, the kids in the back probably want to be nice and comfortable as well. Now, the sunroof certainly lets in quite a bit of light, and if you really wanted to, you can recline your seat a little bit. There actually is like a little footrest that comes up, kind of like a lazy boy. You can put your seat back and have a bit of relax. You can move it forward and back as well. Now, talking a little bit about those little leg rests, you can pull a lever here and actually push the seats inward, and then you can actually slide them further back. So if you really did want to, I think you could get in here with the seat a little bit further back, pull that other lever up. It's a little awkward, but if you had 4 people total in the vehicle, you didn't need those trunk seats, then you could put these back here, a little bit more spacious back here. You can relax. I think this might be pretty decent especially if you're looking for a low cost, kind of being driven around type of vehicle. I think this is not too bad. They're comfortable enough, and then again, if you put the seat back, it isn't too bad, and the armrest will actually move along with you, so you can be in a relaxed position and have a little bit of a sleep. It's unique. So much like the Chrysler Pacifica that we featured last week, we've got a slightly different viewing angle for you here today. However, my daughter is not in the back, but with those seats that fold flat almost, so you can have a relaxing lounge-like experience, she could certainly be a lot more comfortable back there than she was the week before. But there's less of an entertainment factor for her. There's no screens, so that's why I'm on my own today. Now, we found here that the Kia Sedona feels much more like a minivan or a larger crossover SUV. There's nothing wrong with it. You sit a little bit higher up. I find that there's good space. I'm pretty comfortable here with the firmer seats. You don't sink into them quite as much. But, the seats are leather. You do have some wood along here. And for the most part, your drive experience is pretty good. I've been pretty comfortable driving around in this. Now, fuel economy is also pretty good at 10.2 liters per 100 kilometers. It is lower than some of the other full-size and mid-size crossover SUVs we've done, and it's a little bit lower than the other minivan that we've done. So you do save a little bit at the pump there. And it's a little bit underpowered engine, just a teeny bit compared to the Chrysler Pacifica. Even though this is not a comparison, you can watch our full episode of Test Drive Showdown comparing those two vehicles at the end of this week. But it's hard not to talk about other vehicles in this segment, because most people, unless you're a huge Kia fanboy, they're not going to necessarily go into the dealership and just buy it without shopping what else is out there. So I think a lot of people are going to be looking at the different minivans and the crossovers when they're looking at a vehicle like this. Now, there really has been no issue with power getting things up to speed here, getting onto the highway. We keep it usually in eco mode, but there's eco, comfort, and then just regular mode. There's no sport mode, which I kind of appreciate on a vehicle like this. It's not meant to be sporty. There's no flappy paddles here, and I get a little annoyed when manufacturers put those in on cars that really have no purpose having them. So it is nice that this is really a humble vehicle. It knows it's a minivan. It's not trying to be anything more than that, and for the most part, the value is pretty good. For under $50,000, you do get quite a bit of van, quite a bit of kit for that price. And going back and forth to soccer practice means you're not going to need a ton of power, but it does get the job done. If we kick it down, even in eco mode here, we're actually picking up pretty quick. There we go, we're at 100. So it does have some good pickup from that V6 engine, and you can certainly feel the power. I don't know if you're necessarily going to be towing anything massive with this type of vehicle, but we do often see people using minivans to tow around large campers, so definitely make sure you check the rating for whatever you're going to be doing if you decide to throw a tow hook on the back of this. But I think for the most part, it has enough power. It's comfortable enough. You do sit quite high, and it eats up the bumps as good as you would expect. And it is a pretty typical experience for what we would expect in a vehicle of this size and in this segment. I'm not totally blown away with it, but it's also pretty good for what it is. It's a minivan. Most people aren't too interested in them anymore, but I have to say that it is probably a pretty good contender for people who are looking at something like a midsize or full-size crossover SUV.
Now, I do apologize. We did mention on our social media pages that I've been sick for the last couple weeks, so we were really hoping that I'd be back to full health by recording this, but we've reached our deadline, so we have to go with it. Once again, we're also at a disadvantage with the publication date of this review, as Kia Canada is already rolling out the 2019 model year Sedonas, which have a few updates that really could entice some customers, such as a new slide and stow second row seating system, which sounds like it could compete with Chrysler's stow and go system. It also has an updated 8-speed automatic transmission and a refreshed front end design. Now, since we've had this vehicle for a little while, we've had a good opportunity to pair it up against the Chrysler Pacifica for an episode of Test Drive Showdown, which we're still bothering with since both of them are 2018 models. While we still believe most minivan buyers plan on holding on to their vehicles for longer periods than sedans or crossovers, the price of the Sedona is certainly an attractive proposition for buyers, even with the 2019s offering a couple extra trims for about the same MSRPs. The infotainment system also remains our top pick across the consumer market. Ventilated front seats are a nice plus and keep it competitive with most mid-size crossover SUVs. The center reclining captain's chairs are definitely unique in this segment, though they're not perfect. There's always some dislikes about any vehicle, and the Sedona does a good job of keeping that list light. The lack of a rear entertainment system is a real miss here, although KiaPartsNow.com does have a rear entertainment system on their ordering page, so perhaps this is just an issue limited to the Canadian market. The lack of heated seat options for the second row captain's chair is also disappointing, considering the lower option seats would get them. Finally, the dual sunroof setup isn't bad, but a panoramic up front would really help to bring in more light into the cabin and make a much more enjoyable driving experience for all passengers. We think a vehicle like the Kia Sedona still has a place in today's crossover-centric market. The sliding doors and easier seating make family life a little easier, and the price is really competitive against other minivans and midsize crossover SUVs. The only thing you really lose out on is all-wheel drive. Thanks for watching this episode of Test Drive Spotlight on the 2018 Kia Sedona SXL Plus. As always, your support helps make this show possible, so click that like button, hammer on a comment, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Until next time, take care.